Welcome back to another episode of Out Loud Geek, where we discuss news and views about pop culture, science fiction, fantasy, food, cooking, the outdoors, and more. During the 6th weekend of 2025 that ended on February 9th, 2 new movies made it into the weekend's top 5 movies at the domestic box office. And their cumulative total earnings for the weekend fell by 44.46% to $34.9 million, as compared with last weekend's adjusted cumulative total of $62.9 million. So this was the 6th consecutive weekend that the top 5 cumulative domestic box office total was below $100 million, and it was not only below $50 million again, that $34.6 million is the lowest value that I have seen the top 5 cumulative domestic box office total have since I started tracking it last year. Thus, it wasn't a good weekend for domestic movie theaters overall. But before proceeding, if you're enjoying this video, please consider pressing the like button, and if you'd like to see more of my content, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel. And I want to convey my deepest thanks and appreciation to everyone who has subscribed. This weekend's top 5 movies at the domestic box office included the following. Clinging to number 1 was DreamWorks Animation's family movie Dog Man. Opening at number 2 was Screen Gems, Spyglass Media Group's and Sony Pictures' low-budget horror comedy entitled Heart Eyes. Opening at number 3 was 87 North's low-budget action comedy entitled Love Hurts. Falling to number 4 was Walt Disney Pictures' animated prequel entitled Mufasa the Lion King. And falling to number 5 was Boulder Light Pictures, New Line Cinemas, Warner Brothers, Vertigo Entertainment's, and Subconscious's low-budget horror comedy entitled Companion. Dogman earned another $13.7 million domestically, $7.3 million internationally, and $25.4 million globally to bring its current domestic, international, and global gross box office totals up to $54.1 million, $11.9 million, and $66 million respectively. Heart Eyes opened by earning $8.5 million domestically, but no international box office earnings have yet been reported. Love Hurts opened by earning $5.8 million domestically and $1.1 million internationally for a global gross opening weekend box office total of $6.9 million. Mufasa the Lion King earned another $3.9 million domestically, $12.4 million internationally, and $17.9 million globally to bring its current domestic, international, and global gross box office totals up to $235.2 million, $435.9 million, and $671.1 million, respectively. Companion earned another $3 million domestically, $3.3 million internationally, and $9.3 million globally to bring its current domestic, international, and global gross box office totals up to $15.5 million, $8.8 million, and $24.3 million respectively. I'd love to know in the comments below whether you watched any of these 5 movies this weekend and what you thought about them if you did, or whether you weren't interested in seeing any of them. So even though this is 2025, we're continuing to deal with the 3 highest grossing movies domestically for 2024. And those 3 movies remained Disney Pixar's animated movie Inside Out 2, Disney and Marvel Studios' MCU movie Deadpool and Wolverine, and Universal's Wicked, with domestic box office earnings of $653 million, $636.7 million, and $471.9 million, respectively. So Inside Out 2 and Deadpool and Wolverine remain the only 2 movies so far for 2024 that have broken $600 million domestically, and Deadpool and Wolverine became the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time domestically. And globally, the 3 highest grossing movies for 2024 remained Inside Out 2, Deadpool and Wolverine, and Moana 2, with earnings of $1,698.9 million, $1,338.1 million, and $1,039.4 million, respectively. Thus, Moana 2 is only the 3rd movie so far for 2024 to break $1 billion worldwide, after Inside Out 2 and Deadpool and Wolverine. Inside Out 2 outperformed last year's highest-grossing movie worldwide, Barbie, by $251.3 million, and Deadpool and Wolverine became both the highest-grossing R-rated movie worldwide of all time, and the MCU's 6th highest-grossing movie worldwide of all time. The reported production budgets for Inside Out 2, Deadpool and Wolverine, and Moana 2 are $200 million, $250 million, and $150 million respectively. And to estimate what their break-even point ranges might be, I'll multiply each movie's production budget by 2.5 and 3.0 respectively to account for the 50% of gross box office ticket sales that movie theaters keep for themselves, as well as the additional costs of marketing the movie and other miscellaneous costs that the studio pays above and beyond the production budget. And when I do that, we get the following estimated break-even point ranges. For Inside Out 2, we get an estimated break-even point range of $500 million to $600 million. For Deadpool and Wolverine, it's from $625 million to $750 million. And for Moana 2, it's from $375 million to $450 million. Thus, all three of these movies have made bank. That brings us to several other movies that I am continuing to track but are no longer in or never were in the top 5, and they include the following. Falling to number 9 was Paramount Pictures' Sega Sammy Group's original films Marza Animation Planets and Blur Studios' animated three-quel entitled Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Falling to number 10 was Walt Disney Animation Studios' sequel entitled Moana 2. And falling to number 15 was Universal Pictures and Marc Platt Productions' musical fantasy entitled Wicked, starring Cynthia Erivo, Ariana Grande, Jeff Goldblum, and Michelle Yeoh. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 earned another $1.8 million domestically, $6.9 million internationally, and $9.4 million globally to bring its current domestic, international, and global gross box office totals up to $233.1 million, $238.9 million, and $472 million respectively. Moana 2 earned another $1.5 million domestically, $377,000 internationally, and $2.6 million globally to bring its current domestic, international, and global gross box office totals up to $456.1 million, $583.3 million, and $1,039.4 million respectively. Wicked earned another $600,000 domestically, $4.1 million internationally, and $5.1 million globally to bring its current domestic, international, and global gross box office totals up to $471.9 million, $251.7 million, and $723.6 million respectively. Now, to know whether these movies are going to break even or not, as well as how much money they might be losing, we need to estimate their break-even points. When a movie's marketing budget is known, we can add it to the movie's production budget and then multiply the sum by 2. Otherwise, we can multiply the production budget by 2.5 for a single mid-range estimated break-even point, or by both 2.5 and 3.0 for a broader estimated break-even point range. Both methods account for the 50% of gross box office ticket sales that movie theaters keep for themselves. For Mufasa the Lion King, with its production budget of $200 million, as reported by multiple sources, that yields an estimated break-even point range of $500 million to $600 million. For Sonic the Hedgehog 3, with its production budget of around $122 million, as reported by the New York Times, that yields an estimated break-even point range of $305 million to $366 million. For Wicked, with its reported production budget of $150 million, that yields a break-even point range of $375 million to $450 million. So in this video, I am no longer projecting or never have projected what the final domestic or global gross box office earnings might be for the movies Mufasa the Lion King, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, Moana 2, or Wicked, because their expected future earnings are either currently too small, possibly non-existent, or going unreported, or their projected earnings aren't much higher than their current earnings. And in reality, each of these movies has already broken even, so there are no losses to go over for this weekend. Additionally, I have no projections to report for this weekend, but that won't be the case for next weekend after Captain America: Brave New World premieres. So to recap, Mufasa the Lion King, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, Deadpool and Wolverine, Inside Out 2, Moana 2, and Wicked have all made bank. Please let me know in the comments below what you thought of this video and whether you have or are planning to see any of the movies that I talked about. Thanks for watching today, and a huge thanks to each and every one of you who has subscribed to support this channel. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, and Blue Sky by clicking on the links in the description. Until next time, this is Out Loud Geek.